Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome here the day after Christmas. I'd like to welcome you to the commission meeting on December 26, 2023. I call the meeting to order and will note for a record a quorum of the members present. Commissioners Benega and Blyenberg are attending virtually on the telephone or online. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to silence their phones, which I did, and if you plan to speak during public comment, to please sign in the corner over there so you won't have to give your address during public comment. And with that, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to take a moment today to welcome Joel Brown, who we can't see, but who's in the back room doing our videography. I'd also like to express a note of thanks to our past videographer, Tony Simon, for his many, many years of service with the county. So we certainly appreciate the important role that they both play in connecting the citizens to their government. So thank you. And with that, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Kipley,
Aye.
Karski,
Aye.
Benega,
Commissioner Benega?
Aye.
Blyenberg,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Just please bear with us. Technology is great, but there can be time lags. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to comment on the consent agenda this morning? All right, seeing no one. Is there a request by the commission to remove any items from the consent agenda? All right, seeing.
Move to approve.
All right.
Second.
Motion and a
Benega.
second. Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Karski,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Blyenberg,
Aye.
Kipley,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, that takes us to regular business. Just want to, as a reminder, make sure that any speaker has signed in and that they state their county of residence. First item, is a public hearing and second reading to consider adoption of rezoning request number 2307. Scott, good morning.
Thank you, Scott Anderson, Planning Director, and today is the second reading and possible final adoption of a rezoning request 2307. This property is located at the Crooks Renner exit in the northeast quadrant of that intersection. It contains approximately 5 acres, 4.97 acres. It is currently zoned A1 agriculture. The applicant is requesting to rezone this to C commercial. The property has been before the Planning Commission at the November 27th meeting, and at that meeting, it was recommended unanimously to rezone the property to C commercial district. I can show you a few pictures. There is an existing residence. They will be in the process of removing that residence and developing it into a commercial area. There is a large commercial development already in this area. The property directly to the south is zoned C commercial, and there's the large contingency of storage units that you can see. That across the road is also zoned commercial and has storage units, as you can see there. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions. It's a pretty routine rezoning, and it meets the objectives and goals of the comprehensive plan. It is at a intersection of a paved county highway and the interstate, so I'd be glad to answer any questions you have.
Great. Any questions for Scott? So this is a public hearing, so in lieu of public comment, we have a different process that we use. So if there's anyone here that's a proponent of this item? Somebody who'd like to come forward and speak in favor of this rezoning request? This is your opportunity. Seeing none. Are there any opponents to this rezoning request? Anybody here who would like to speak in opposition? Oh, you may come to the podium, please. If you just state your name, please.
Richard Rigney. I don't know if calling myself a opponent is correct, but more questions regarding trees. I don't want to consider myself a tree hugger, but what I see happening in the Sioux Falls area and in the areas around Sioux Falls is more and more and more and more and more trees are being eliminated. And I don't know if anyone's aware that but the more trees you eliminate, the less moisture you're going to get from the sky. You can look that up. Rainforests have been cut down and the rain stops coming. So my question would be, what is Sioux Falls doing, or what's happening when a place like this with numerous trees get cut down? What is the county doing about replacing those trees?
Thank you. Scott, if you'd like to come forward and talk about trees as it relates to this rezoning request.
So in this specific instance, I have worked with the property owner and the potential buyer of this property. It is their intent that they would put in a building, and then they'll be doing some storage, or they're gonna have like a trucking business that they're gonna operate out of the facility. And that will require a conditional use permit, and I have specifically talked to them about retaining as many trees in that shelter belt, because there is, you can see to the north, some other ag residential uses. I've indicated to them that it would be in the best interest to keep as many of those trees as possible to serve as a buffer. So we do take that into consideration. When we do have existing shelter belts and tree lines like that, we like to keep as many as we can. And so this will be reviewed by the Planning Commission. And at that time, there'll be a public hearing, and we will discuss buffering and retaining as many trees as possible.
Okay, thank you. Any other opponents that'd like to speak? All right. It doesn't appear there's anybody here in favor, so there's no rebuttal. So I would turn it over to the commission for discussion or a motion.
Madam Chair,
And make,
go ahead, Gerald.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say this was reviewed at Planning and Zoning and was approved unanimously. I have no further concerns, so I'd make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
It's a motion.
Benninger.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Kipley,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Karski,
Aye.
Blindberg,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right, thank you. All right, that takes us to the next item, which is item 7, which is consider a motion to adopt a resolution establishing the 2024 elected department head annual salaries. Carrie Deaver, good morning.
Good morning, Carrie Deaver from Human Resources. Before you are 3 resolutions for elected official salaries for department heads for 2024. They're the 3 that you requested last week.
All right.
If there's questions about them, I'm happy to answer those.
Yep, thank you. I know this is the 3rd time now this has been before us. So are there any questions directly for Carrie before I turn it over to public comment? All right. So I anticipate that there's people here who'd like to speak about this item on public comment. And so just a couple of reminders. If you intend to speak, if you could just make sure you signed in the back. As a normal practice, each person's limited to 3 minutes for public comment. As I noted, we have had opportunities for public comment on the same topic. Now this is the 3rd week. And so we will give everyone a chance to speak. But I would ask that you try not to be repetitive in your comments, that you keep your comments relevant to the topic at hand, which is the salary increase, and that you direct your comments to the commission as a body. With that, I'd ask for anyone interested to come to the podium and just introduce yourself. Thank you.
Good morning, Jessica Palama. I just thought maybe we could start this thing off right this morning. And anyone that's here to support Leah Anderson, please stand. Okay, please take note of that, commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Rick Weidel. I'm going to recommend that you strike and don't even consider option number 2. It is political retaliation. It's sexual discrimination. And if you look at yourself, you don't even hold yourself up to the same bar. Each of you are currently paid at the same amount regardless of experience, regardless of gender, regardless of age, regardless of performance, and even if you violated election laws and rules, you don't hold yourself accountable to those. Do not go down this path. Intimidation of an election official will not be tolerated. Thank you.
Thank you. So anyone else? Good morning.
Mick Baruth, Sioux Falls. Can't say it much better than what he did. As he said, all of you are paid the same salary, no matter what your experiences are, and whether you followed rules or have not followed rules. Nobody's being punished there, so can't say it much better than he did. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you not repeating things, so thank you very much. Good morning.
Michael Stangland from Minnehaha and here in Sioux Falls, and I speak as someone who supported Leah Anderson in the last election, who went door knocking for her in at least one case alongside her, and contrary to what some people have said in comments about her, she's doing she's working towards exactly the things that it was hoped for when she was campaigning. I mean, contrary to what some individuals might think, I would do it all over again. I would campaign for her. I would assist with door knocking for her. I would do it all the more enthusiastically, and I would very much support her again, explicitly because of the work she has been doing and explicitly because of what she has been trying to accomplish. And unfortunately, every impression I've gotten is that regardless, unless she had basically turned her back on what she campaigned for, there's very much the impression that the commission would be antagonistic towards her. And I think it would be beneficial to everyone if there was this attempt, there was an effort to be cooperative and to try and work with her. And unfortunately, the fact that there's even in discussion the idea of explicitly excluding her from any increase at all, it sends a very bad message. I mean, frankly, I very much support her. I am very much behind her. I think that she should be getting the support, especially of not being even considered for exclusion from a pay raise. Because again, contrary to what some people may think, some people might say, I mean, if she runs again, I very much will be voting for her again. I will very much be supporting her again. So I think at absolute minimum, 2 should not even be in consideration, and it's sad that it's even up there right now.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Good morning.
Good morning. Richard Rigney again. I look at these increases and notice that they're about the same as the amount of extra money that each one of us here, including yourselves, have to fork over for things like groceries and the like. But yet you don't see those type of increases as far as wage increases for the most of Americans these days. So it seems that the federal government, and my wife works for the VA. I'm a retired Air Force veteran myself. My wife works for the VA. She's getting a raise this year. But it seems that it's nowhere near that amount. But it seems that the governments, state, federal, local governments, during times of hardship for the rest of Americans, always seem to want to pat themselves on the back and give themselves more money. Why is that? There's some people who won't even look at the people up here speaking, rather than looking at their screens, not paying attention. I thought this was a meeting. Is that how you have discussions with other people? So you're either ashamed of the amount you're trying to increase, and leaving one person out of that increase, which shouldn't be allowed whatsoever. If you're going to give the people of your board here or commission a raise, then it should go across the board. You shouldn't be able to say, well, all except for you, you don't get anything. Who would do that? So first thing is, why such a large increase? It's taxpayer. You're taxing the people more. That's what you're doing. Even though the country's in a recession and close to a depression, whether or not you want to realize that or not, people are struggling all over this nation, including here in South Dakota. So why would you be bold enough to say, you know what, we need more money? Because why not? We can vote it. We can vote on it ourselves to give ourselves a raise, and we can take it from the people who are sitting here, just tax them more. Oh, except this person, because we don't like her. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here today for public comment? Good morning.
Yeah, my name's Alan Wheat, and I just want to comment on the fact that your former auditor said he had the gold standard, but I don't know if you read the newspaper about the gold standard, that they had to have somebody checking what was going on with the machines. And gee, that's the gold standard? And then you gave him a raise after he was unelected. And I go, what is going on? I don't understand. So we have someone here that is now shepherding the people. It's actually asking questions. Oh no, we can't do that. We got to do exactly what ES&S says. Do you understand what a statement of work is? Who gives a statement of work? The person hiring, not the person that's the vendor. Did you understand that ES&S told Leah, we will give you a statement of work? I don't understand that. That should be coming from you or from Leah, not from them. So I would check to see who's in charge here. Are you being governed by the vendor, or are you governing and having an auditor check what's going on? Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning, Larry Hochstetter, Minnehaha County. I would also agree that we should strike number 2, or that the council should strike number 2. Last week I attended the meeting and was kind of appalled at the fact that it seemed like we're retaliating against the auditor because she's challenged one of our vendors because she's not able to get information for training and to set up and run what she feels comfortable as being a fair and honest election. We're holding her accountable for the election, but she's not getting the tools from the vendor. And she needs the support of this board. And actually not giving her a pay raise is retaliation for her challenging a vendor. And I would ask the board not only to strike number 2, but also to figure out how we can support one of our county employees, the auditor, in challenging the vendor to step forward and get the information that's been asked for in a timely basis. 6 months, unacceptable. Like the previous guy, the vendor had stated the vendor should be working for the county. The county employees should not be working for the vendor. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Good morning.
Good morning. Gary Meyer. I had my remarks all written up and decided to scrap them because we all know what's going on here, and my remarks were pointless. A commoner has invaded the kingdom of the rich and the powerful, and they don't like it. And they have instructed some people on this commission to get her under control. In myself, it wouldn't matter to me whether you give her a 5% raise, a 50% raise, or you cut her salary in half, because you've made your intentions clear here. You're out to make a point, and you're out to get her under control. And Leah, I want to say to you that you have a lot of support. We are proud of you. There are people all across this state that are watching this morning, and you have a lot of support. It's got to be incredibly hard for you to stand up and come to work every day, but you're a patriot, and we pray for you and want you to hold fast to your convictions. Prayers for you, my friend.
Hi, I'm Bridget Myers. I'm from District 11. I'm Precinct Committee Woman 0313 from the Kingswood District. I ran for office after the 2020 election when I became concerned about what happened with our elections here. I still am in shock about the ballot boxes and how that was allowed to happen. I went out and knocked door to door. The number one thing I heard from people knocking door to door was concerns about your auditor, your previous auditor. Our voter rolls and our sheets where we had to go door to door with were so outdated. It was an embarrassment to have to knock on doors, and people were gone, deceased, and they're still on our voter rolls. If you have any clue what some of us have been through out here, you would respect us a little more when we're up here speaking to you. There is no book out there that explains how to come up and talk to you guys, that teaches the raw people, the people out here, how to do this process. It would be nice if you'd give some of them a little grace, because last week I watched you criticize them. And people don't know this process. They're not in your seat. They're not government officials. They don't know the rules. They don't know how to play by the rules. And there's no books for the people out here to tell us how to do it. You have to just figure it out or find somebody who knows the process to get through. I am disappointed that you started, Leah, at such a low salary to begin with. You don't count her being an accountant any type of experience at all. I mean, I'm completely disappointed in you. And a 7.5% increase, period, in this economy right now? How dare you? How dare you? How many people out here get 7.5% raises? I mean, I cannot believe that. And a 5% increase, thank you to Blyenberg for at least giving a smaller amount. 7.5% to me is a huge amount in this economy and what people are going through. And I can tell you that I have been out at a lot of the auxiliaries and out in the community, and I can tell you who I get to see at most of the things I attend is Leah. She is out there amongst the people, helping and reaching people every single day. I've watched it with my own eyes. I've watched what she's done. And the way that she is being treated, I am completely disappointed in you. I cannot believe that you would treat a government official like this. And you want to know, people are watching, and to sit here and say she won't be elected again, how dare you say that? I mean, do you know how many people went out and knocked door to door for her and stood by her side and went door to door and talked to the people? People are concerned about our elections. These people have been coming for 2 years to get an item on your agenda, and you won't let them? How come that is? I'm completely disappointed. I just started plugging into this process, and I will start being here every week to hold you accountable, because you need to listen to what the people are asking. And the option 2 should have never been suggested. And you are a member of her party. You are a colleague of hers. I cannot believe that you would do such a thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else this morning for public comment? Good morning.
Morning. Cindy Meyer. I too would request that option 2 be struck. But I would like to add a couple comments in regards to last week's meeting. It was quite hostile. Leah received a great deal of backlash for recording that ES&S meeting. Did anyone bother to ask the Secretary of State or ES&S if they were recording the meeting? I would bet that each of those had someone recording the meeting as well. that meeting, the one Mr. Kipley refers to as an embarrassment to the county, was not set up by the Minnehaha County Auditor. It was demanded by ES&S that the auditor and the elections coordinator attend that Zoom call as a prerequisite just to get training. By the looks of who was on the call from ES&S and the SOS office, it appeared to be a Zoom call purely for the sake of intimidation. Why would ES&S have 9 of their top executives and the Secretary of State have 6 people in attendance on that call? Mr. Kipley also stated that if any other department head staff pull a stunt similar to what Leah pulled with her call with ES&S, they will not be looked upon very favorably because it is an embarrassment to the county. That comment sounded like a stern warning not to go against the narrative of the current county commission agenda. I don't know how any of you commissioners can fairly assess whether or not Leah gets a salary increase. Your comments and actions show nothing but bias towards her. You are not acting as professionals.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Randy. I'm from Minnehaha County. The way I viewed the whole situation, I kind of read a lot about what was going on in the past, is you guys voted in a system and you kind of stuck it on the auditor to have to deal with. And I believe she's come to the table to try to ask for whatever support she's needed to make it work. And I think that if you're gonna single her out in this situation about raising issues, I think all you're gonna be doing is singling out yourself by taking that action. So I'd like to see number 2 stricken, and I just, that's about all I have to say. I do support her, and I think she's doing a good job, and I think she's trying. I think you gotta give her a chance.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Julianne Perigo-Talkington. I live over on South Phillips here in Sioux Falls. I'm hearing a lot of people try to discredit the people in this group, so I'd like to speak about my background first. I have 2 engineering degrees from Stanford University, and my master's project was in automation. I've worked in automation, and I have an MBA, and I worked with auditors and accountants. And I think we should all be really applauding Leah. This is the first time we've actually had an accountant who's our auditor. And it's really hard to audit if you don't have an accounting background. So, and I want to talk to you just a little bit about how this is really good for all of us, not only the commission, but the citizens of the county. And I also want to talk about the pressures Leah must be feeling, because knowing how the auditing process works and accountants work, she must be feeling a lot of pressure personally, because as an accountant and as an auditor, a person who's done auditing, she has a lot of personal and professional liability if she doesn't ask questions and there's a problem. And the other thing that maybe is not immediately apparent is she's protecting all of you, because that's the job of the auditor. If there's a problem and she was not allowed to ask the necessary questions, then it all falls back on whoever didn't allow her to ask the questions and the commission as a whole. So I think by asking questions, she's protecting all of us, the county, the commission, and all of you personally. So I think we should actually be applauding her for doing that. And then the other thing is, I know it probably is, I mean, I don't like audits or accountants either all the time, but I think part of the problem is you're not used to it too, because this is the first time we've had somebody with this type of credentials in the position. So it's like, oh my gosh, I mean, she's pushing things that seem unreasonable. These are normal accounting sorts of things that she's asking for. And we really ought to let her do her job, because she's protecting all of us. And if in business, I don't always like the accountants, but I know they're doing what's right for me. The other thing that is very concerning to me, especially with my background in automation, is that I'm hearing a lot of people making strong statements about very technical things that they have no background to make the statements. So I have a background in automation. I am not comfortable that our hardware and software for our elections is safe and secure. And I have been to one of the top universities in the world. I studied this topic and I've worked in the field. And so if you have an auditor and she's literally wanting to understand what's going on, we should be applauding her. The other thing is that I'm very, very concerned about us relying on a vendor. That's not done in the technical world. If the organization that's employing the vendor actually does the checks. We don't have anybody in the Secretary of State's office that can do these sorts of things. So allowing the auditor to do whatever is necessary is actually protecting all of you, protecting all of us in the county, and protecting Leah personally, since she's the one that has to sign off. So we have a wonderful opportunity here. We actually have an auditor who's the auditor. We should really be supporting her. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, anybody else this morning? Good morning.
I'm Jeff Barth, and former fellow commissioners, when I was first elected as a county commissioner, I did not accept a pay raise for the first 4 years. One of the things I ran on was the 19.6% raise that they had given themselves the year before. And it was a catch-up, no question about it, but it was an issue that resonated with the people. I had to pay taxes on that money, and then I donated it to the banquet center for, I didn't give it to this, but I gave it away. And after that 4 years, then I accepted the raise. The reason I'm here now, though, is to speak in support of you. And that doesn't mean I don't support the auditor. I think she's done a couple of good things since getting in that job. But there's a habit you Republicans have of when you don't get your way, you call in a mob. And that's not what they should do. There are 190,000 people not in this room. We have to represent, you have to represent them. And Ms. Anderson, I think you can get this accomplished, but the way to accomplish it is not to bring people to insult the commission, not to bring people to undermine their actions, but to work quietly in the back and get this done. So when we leave here, why don't we try to do that? Why don't we try to cooperate, auditor, commission, treasurer, commission, state's attorney, the whole 9 yards. Joe Kirby has a piece in his blog today or yesterday talking about charter government for the county. I think it's brilliant. I think that his plan for for changing it isn't quite right, but I think that it's not right to have amateurs appointed to or elected to be auditor, treasurer, register of deeds. We've had amateurs in the past. Bob Litz, I don't question his honesty, but he just couldn't make it work, just like he couldn't make his business work. You're not here to make money. You're here to serve the people. And there are a lot of people not here. Don't call in the mob.
Thank you. Anyone else that'd like to speak this morning? Morning.
Hi, Cindy Baldwin, Sioux Falls. I'm grieved to see what happens at the local, national level. I have one warning, and that's from God. Proverbs 17:15. I pray for our souls. We are in a nation that is one nation under God. And you see the flag behind you. Our nation has fallen and I pray for our souls that we look to God for what we should do. Leah, I elected her. I voted for her, and I appreciate what she's done. But God has one thing to say to all of us. He who justifies the wicked and he who condemns the righteous are both in abomination to the Lord. I thank you for what you do day in and day out as a committee. But I ask that you support Leah because she has done a lot for we the people. And that's all I have to say.
Anyone else this morning for public comment?
I'm Pamela Boyden. I was not asked to be here this morning by anyone. I am not part of a mob or the mafia. I am a citizen of Minnehaha County. I am a citizen of the state of South Dakota. And talking about vendors, I mean, my husband works for the state of South Dakota. They hire vendors all the time. Would you want a vendor that came in and didn't provide the proper care for the plows that are getting you home safe at night? Would you want a vendor that came in and undercut everybody price-wise and gave the same type of product? We need someone that's watching out for us. And it's not just Leah that's doing it. It's all of those people that are hiring vendors and watching vendors and going through the vendors process. She's not the only one in the state that does that, or the county. So keep that in mind. And to be accused of being part of a mob is no different than saying that we are accusing you of doing a bad job. I appreciate that every one of you sit on this board and that you are doing your job. But if we aren't working together, we can't get the job done right. I do agree that we should strike number 2. Do I agree you should get 7.5% or 5%? That's your decision and your conscience. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Good morning.
Good morning, Cindy Heiberger. I was actually a member of this board last year and retired, and I just thought I should come in support of what we have done in the past. The resolution, I'm not going to speak to the percentage parts because I haven't been here for the last year, but the part about setting salaries for elected officials was done through a new incoming elected officials was done through a resolution before Leah came, in my remembrance, and that was also set again, but it's been in our books or whatever you want to call it for quite some time. It's not a new thing, and there were more than one elected official last year that came in on those salaries that had been set prior to the June election. The other thing that I think may have been misunderstood as I'm listening is that these 7.5% are not including the commission, because the only ones that are set today are the elected officials like the auditor, the treasurer, the register of deeds, the sheriff, and the state's attorney. This does not raise the rates of commissioners. I just thought that needed to be clarified because I think some people have misunderstood that. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else this morning? Good morning.
Good morning. Chandra Isaacson. I'm a Sioux Falls poll worker. The last couple polls that I worked, I saw the dead people on there. I went to Ben Kite. Dead people were there the next time. The polls are a mess. I helped get a Leah elected. We campaigned for her. We walked for her. We voted for her. I don't make it to these meetings. I am not a part of a mob. I have a job. I'm at work from 8 to 5. But I listened to them, and I heard the meeting last week. I'm not part of a mob, but you were bullies. Leah's a patriot. I'm a patriot. I think that, Leah, what you're doing to her is disgraceful, and I'm disappointed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else this morning? All right. I don't see anybody else moving, so I'm going to turn it over to the commission for discussion.
Well, Madam Chair, I can lead off.
Okay, Commissioner Kipley.
So just to take some drama out of this, I've got some comments, but I'll be making a motion for option number 1 will be increasing all of the elected officials by 7.5%, but a few comments before we get there. I don't know that there's a firm understanding of what our concern was with the auditor's conduct. A few comments that have come subsequent to that just kind of miss the point, and it was essentially that I really don't care what the topic was. And any vendor that we're using, this election software obviously gets some of this performative politics and the drama around it, but any vendor, the fact that we're putting ourselves out there to say these are the only 2 people on the call, and we're surreptitiously recording the call, and then we're going to reveal at the end of the meeting there's a room full of people. After being very sensitive to the fact that having 9 people from a company and 6 people from the Secretary of State's office is intimidation, there might be some projection there, I guess is all I'll say there. So the conduct there is what's in question. So the underlying issue that it had to do with ES&S and the software. But then that group took that recording and put it on a website that thought they had this, slam dunk in our age of social media and website-based journalism, that this is the how-to guide on how to establish trust in our elections. I can't express how misguided that is. To build trust, you need to build relationships and have people trust your communications. When you're going to record those communications and then ambush them, that's not going to build trust. In the intervening week, I've had people that are close to other auditors' offices, Secretary of State's offices, say that they don't like sending out emails to their group of fellow auditors. That was the culture of the auditors in this state, was that they would rely on one another. They would send an email and say, hey, are you guys working on this? What issue do you have here? And they don't like doing that anymore because one auditor will take that language, strip it from its context, and weaponize it back against them. So there's basically a loss of trust, a loss of faith in the office. That is my concern. And at the end of the day, we wanted some assurance that we'd be using machine vote tabulators, that they'll be used as contracted for with the city of Sioux Falls. I'm losing a little. I was kind of reassured of that, but also I feel like I'm losing some confidence that the April and June elections will go forward correctly. But I'll set that aside. Just back to my original point that I don't know that it's fully understood what the critique was. Our auditor put a letter to the editor into the Argus Leader and gave her rationale for why she invited people to this meeting with ES&S. And the phrase was, since I work for the people, I invited the people to be present in the room, to only listen and not participate. So when she says she works for the people, and I've heard a lot of phrases of we the people is kind of a phrase, obviously from the preamble to our Constitution. I again think that's misguided and a misdefinition. So, and I can give you some more. I'm happy to talk about the phrase "we the people" and Abraham Lincoln's statement of we need a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, which brings in other political philosophy that I'm happy to talk to you about another time. But the issue here is we invited the people, but I think we have a misunderstanding. The people, so is the people your group of core supporters that you want to ambush on a call with a vendor? Or is it, as the auditor, as an auditor's office would well know how to publish notice for a public meeting? If you wanted to have a public meeting and have a town hall style where you can hold people accountable, that there's witnesses to what they do, we have those all the time. This is not out of the realm of how you do things. So just the conduct, again, it doesn't matter the subject matter, but to talk about that we're transparent and we're for the people, but really we're for a faction. And so we can talk again about the political philosophy of factions as well. So that's where we have some of our core problems. So so different definitions of how to build trust, different definitions of the people. I appreciate Commissioner Barth mentioning that there are 200,000 people in Minnehaha County. So a few people in here or showing up to a Zoom meeting is not representative and is not going to be intimidating here in this sense. But back to the performative politics on this issue, I guess I would bring it around to that, because I think we've got, it reminds me of a Ronald Reagan quote about his political opponents. He would say the trouble with my political opponents isn't that they're ignorant, it's that just that they know so much that isn't so. So that's the problem we have with some of the election denialism, and I think we've seen it.
You guys have had a chance to talk, and now it's Commissioner Kipley's. Please be respectful.
I'll just state a few facts of what's come through the courts. So we have multiple defamation suits.
Commissioner Bender, I'd ask for order while Commissioner Kipley is talking.
A point of order relevance. Okay, good call. We're not under Robert's Rules of Order, and okay. Okay, multiple defamation judgments. Okay, so you guys, you can keep, you say there's not an agenda item, but we give a public forum, a public comment, and you guys can say as many things as you want about ES&S as you'd like. That's fine. Just understand that when these claims are being made, they don't vet out. Okay, so we've got Fox News and Dominion voting systems, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Are you going to bring it back to salary, please?
So fine. No, that's fine. I don't need to engage in the performative politics of the. Okay.
Anything else with regard to salary, Commissioner Kipley?
So I'm happy to make the motion for the 7.5% increase for all, and that's all I have.
I would like to leave it open for discussion before we take a second to that motion, if possible. I'd like to give Commissioner Karski or Commissioner Benega or Commissioner Blyenberg an opportunity to speak if they would like to. Commissioner Blyenberg and Commissioner Benega, since I can't see you, if you could just let me know. If you don't have any comment, then that is fine.
Madam Chair, if I could speak?
Yes, please, Commissioner Blyenberg. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that one of my biggest takeaways from this past year with the county is that I've been incredibly impressed with all of our county staff, which I think is due in large part to the leadership from our department heads. I think that 7.5% is extremely generous, but not unwarranted for the caliber of most of our staff. So I will be in support of that resolution.
Thank you. Commissioner Benega, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Well, to be blunt, I am a little disappointed in the reaction of people not pursuing facts rather than innuendos or, frankly, in some cases, just making statements that they think are facts. We've heard from the Secretary of State. We've heard from other people that have been involved in the process in the past. There are always pieces that can be challenged because nothing in any political conversation seems to be perfect anymore. I also think that we need to make sure that we keep the people that we have. And frankly, whether I agree with how they perform or not, I think there is a cost to doing business that we need to be competitive with the community's incomes and frankly with other organizational changes. So I will be supporting an increase. I'm not sure which one I'm going to support at this point. We're not able as a private organization to do the 7.5% all the time. In fact, we lose people to governments on a regular basis. But so I'm still trying to debate which rate increase I'm going to use, either the 7.5 or the 5. At this point, I'd like to get back to the conversation about treating people correctly. I'm somewhat insulted by the fact that we just, I don't even know how to say this politely, pick on people that aren't there any longer and criticize what their experiences in life have been. And frankly, not having open public meetings on what the vendors have done and let them give us some training, accuse us of some insecurities, which has been proven incorrect by our own IT people and the people that I've talked to. I also have an accounting experience, and I've had some IT experience. And when I listen to some of the innuendos, I'm disappointed, but I'm trying to forget all of that and just deal with what we're dealing with today with the elected department heads' incomes and try to make, frankly, the county the best place to provide programs and services. So that's where I'm at right now. And as I said, I'm not totally supportive of the 7.5. I would definitely do the 5, but I'll think about that for a few more minutes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Carsey?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. I've got a lot of scattered thoughts, I guess, so I'm going to try to have them make sense. Commissioner Heiberger, thank you for your comments regarding salaries. We have set salaries, base salaries for elected officials for years. We have to by statute, actually. So when you're elected, you should know what the base salary is when you run. We have never paid any higher than the base salary for elected officials. Year over year, we do give raises to elected officials, department heads, and they're always online with what we give to all of our people on payroll. So last year, I believe it was 14%, roughly, just to keep up with inflation and what the economy was doing. We did not give that. We gave that to all elected department heads. We did not give that to the commission. We took a 5% raise. This year, we'll probably do the same thing, a 5% raise. Somebody made the comment that we're all paid the same. Somewhat true. The chair does get a higher compensation just based on the recognition that the responsibilities and duties, the demands of the job as chair are a little bit, greatly increased over what the commission, a regular commissioner does. We have not had a discussion of excluding her. It was brought up, but there was no discussion on it. When it comes to the ENS&S software and giving people the opportunity for public comment, this has nothing to do with salaries, but it's been brought up. Auditor Anderson asked us to approve the contract for ES&S about 6-7 weeks ago. We did not shut down any discussion. We took all comments as they were brought up. We listened to everybody. So I think it's really disingenuous to say that we don't allow any of that type of discussion. It's talked about publicly. It's talked about in this body, so that discussion is held continuously. For this year, because we did give all of our employees a 7.5% raise, typically it's 5%, and because of step increases, most of our employees get an additional 2.5%. That's where the 7.5% came from. I am supportive of a 7.5% salary increase, and I will stop my comments there.
Okay, thank you. So as commissioners, we've obviously had a lot of time to think about this. We've had a lot of opportunity to get input from people who are here and people who aren't in the room today for any number of reasons. I personally have thought about it a lot. You know, we all have to stay in our lane under statute, and one of the things that commissioners are charged with under statute is setting salaries for elected officials. It's really an awkward process. It's very awkward to have to do this in a public meeting. It is generally uncomfortable. It's even more uncomfortable to vote for your own salary increase, I'll tell you. But nevertheless, that's the role that we are given under the statute. So, and I would say that, you know, part of that is the, under statute, the commission is the gatekeeper, to say nothing else, between elections for elected officials. And since I've been on the commission in the last 9 years, people who are no longer associated with the commission have been in elected offices, and there have been times where we have chosen to give them different increases in their raises than others because we had information that the public wouldn't have access to necessarily. We've had an elected official who just really chose not to work very much. Or, you know, we've had other issues with elected officials. And so I think that that is the role that we are given. And, you know, it's unfortunate that that we have to do this publicly. You know, you want to be transparent, but at the same time, it's more respectful to have conversations privately. I've worked in the private sector my whole life, and I've never had to. So I've been able to have a one-on-one conversation to either get the good news or the bad news and not do it publicly. It's just very awkward. And I would say that as I've thought about this, you know, I think that there are definitely some things that the auditor has done a very good job with this year. She's managed to maintain, for the most part, a very highly qualified staff. We've had, you know, first budget cycle, and, you know, we rely a lot on the auditor's office for budgeting information, for forecasting, you know, for all the financial information that goes into bonding. It's very complicated. And I thought we had a really good budget cycle this year. I thought the budgeting process went really well. I thought we had really good information. I was very happy about that. We just finished, the auditor's office just finished the precinct process, which was unbelievably complicated. You know, had to be done because of state redistricting and things. And so, and as a commission, that's one of the, you know, there are just a few enumerated situations in the voting process that the commission has responsibility for, and the auditor brought that forward, and we approved that recently. And I was, from everything I could tell, that process went well, and it's very complicated, so I appreciate that. I would say that the lack of transparency in the recent meeting that's been alluded to today with the vendor was very troubling to me. I think the natural consequences of that kind of lack of transparency is that that it'll be difficult to build trusting relationships. And when you run an election, you are the quarterback of a really, really large team of people. And they have to be able to have trust in you and what you're telling them, and that they aren't going to get, that isn't going to be turned on them without full transparency. So I find that very troubling, and it is concerning to me as we go into an election year. I'll be honest about that. But nevertheless, I am supportive of a raise for the auditor, and I'm supportive of a raise for the other elected officials. It is difficult, as Commissioner Benega said. I know several of us up here have some heartburn about the level. Is it 5%? Is it 7.5%? We're always paying catch up a little bit with elected officials because staff get their raise, and then at the end of the year, we typically give the elected officials their raise. And so, here we're once again playing catch up a little bit, where maybe inflation seems to be tempering a bit, but we haven't quite caught up with those salary raises for the elected officials. So I personally am going to be supportive of a 7.5% raise here for all of our elected officials. But if the commission deemed to go with a 5% raise, I could understand that as well. So with that, if there are any other comments from the commission, we do have a motion from Commissioner Kipley for a 7.5% raise across the board for elected officials. Is there a second to that motion?
Second, Blyenberg.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Blyenberg. There's a second by Commissioner Blyenberg. I'm looking to see, yes, we'd have to do a roll call vote. So there's a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Kipley.
Aye.
Blyenberg.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, that takes us to item 8, which is to authorize the commission chair to sign agreements with RAM, UMR, Avera, and Sanford for county-wide health plan. Carrie Deaver, good morning.
Good morning.
And Madam Chair, I'm going to recuse on this one.
Thank you.
You may recall that approximately every 3 years, I bring a motion or a request for motion forward to you on this item. The county operates its own self-insured health plan, and as part of that, we have several entities that help us with that plan. First, we have RAM, who coordinates among the different parties in that group. We have UMR, who's our third-party administrator, and then both of the care systems where our employees can choose either health plan. Today, I'm asking for your approval, I'm pleased to say, for new 3-year contracts with each of those entities. If you look through, the rates are slightly different depending on the services provided by each one, but they all average less than a 3% increase each year. So I'm very pleased to say that we're able to do this again for the next 3 years, and I'm asking for your approval on all 4 agreements.
All right, thank you. Questions for Carrie? Commissioners Blyenberg and Benega, do you have any questions for Carrie on these items?
No.
All right.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I don't have.
All right, thank you. I think I heard Commissioner Blyenberg say she also does not. Public comment. Is there anybody here for public comment on any of these contracts? Okay. I turn it over to commissioners for discussion or motion.
Move to approve the contracts. Do we do each one individually, or?
Do you need a motion on each contract, or can we do them all? It's a good question. I remember thinking about that when I was reading through it.
Madam Chair, they are a single topic. It's fine if the chair decides in her discretion to take one single vote, but it's certainly fine to take them individually as well.
Okay.
Move to approve all the contracts.
So motion.
I'll second.
Motion.
Second that, Benega.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Karski.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Blyenberg.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously with reflecting that Commissioner Kipley recused himself.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that takes us to item 9, which is an authorization to pay attorney's fees for litigation associated with the settlement agreement between Dakotans for Health and Minnehaha County. Good morning, Tom.
All right, good morning. Tom Greco, Commission Administrative Officer. If you recall, last month, the Commission entered into a settlement agreement with resultant from litigation with Dakotans for Health. One of the provisions of that settlement agreement is that the county would pay attorney's fees. What you see before you are those fees. They're in the amount of $54,815.15. These are the plaintiff fees. Pending approval, we would issue a check to Dakotans for Health, care of James Leach. Subject to your questions, that's all I have.
Any commission questions?
I do not.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone for public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, turn it over for commission discussion. Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Benninga.
Thank you. So we have a motion to approve.
I'll second.
And a
Commissioner Benninga's
second. All right. Roll call vote, please.
Benega,
Aye.
Kipley,
Aye.
Karski,
Aye.
Blyenberg,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. That takes us to item 10, which begins a number of items for to consider supplement budget requests. Good morning. Are you going to provide
Good morning.
do these instead of Susan, or is Susan going to do them virtually?
I was just going to explain that, yeah.
Oh, perfect. All right. Thank you.
Leah Anderson, Auditor's Office. Yes, Susan is joining us virtually. I am going to control the slides. Can I put it up here? Okay. Anyway, so Susan should be online. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you guys
Okay.
hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you for joining us. I know you're under the weather, so I really appreciate you being willing to attend virtually.
Yes. So today, the first item that we have, this is Susan Beeman from the Auditor's Office. The first item is to have our public hearing related to 2023 budget supplements. As you may recall, on December 5th, you authorized us to post notice of a hearing for today for you to consider budget supplements for the general fund, the E911 fund, domestic abuse fund, and the capital projects fund. We have subsequently added the museum enterprise fund to that list as well. So before you, you'll see a resolution. If you go down a little bit, Leah, a couple pages, you'll see a resolution that identifies the supplement requests. There is the total of all of them are $3,930,038. The general fund total is about $222,000. The E911 fund is $100,000. Domestic abuse fund is $200. The museum enterprise fund is $30,000, and then the capital projects fund is just over $3.57 million. So the ones that have changed from the notice of hearing to today, the commission professional services, the airport salaries and air guard salaries have been increased due to changes in estimates. Additionally, the museum enterprise fund was added due to some recent information. The largest item on this list is related to the capital projects fund, and that is due to the Juvenile Justice Center approval project that was approved in early 2023, so it was not budgeted. So I'll just pause here for questions that you may have for me. We do have some of the people in the room related to the sheriff's office as well as the commission office for questions if you have any questions for further discussion.
All right, thank you, Susan. I just wonder, there's a lot of people here, and it occurs to me there might be a lot of people watching online, and the supplemental process isn't something that everybody's familiar with. Can you just explain a little bit about why it is that we come at the end of the year and do these supplements to begin with?
We are required to have commission approval to spend over than what the original budget of the year was. So, for example, the capital projects fund, we did not budget anything for the Juvenile Justice Center project when we did the 2023 budget in September of 2023, in September of 2022. Since it was done subsequent to the end of the year, we now have to get permission to actually put that budget authority in there. The project has been approved. The dollars related to that were approved. It's just, this is the mechanics by statute that we have to actually get that budget authority into the budget.
Thank you. I think that's helpful. All right. Is there any questions for Susan before I go to public comment? Is there anyone here for public comment on this item? Good morning.
Good morning, Gary Meyer. I believe there was a supplement for the Fairgrounds Task Force of $9,000 some odd dollars. Can you explain what that was for and what's already been spent for the Fairground Task Force? I'm just curious where that comes from. Thank you.
I think Tom Greco's coming up since that's one of his responsibilities.
Good morning, Commission. Tom Greco, Commission Administrative Officer. That was for the totality of the Fairgrounds Task Force in 2023. Traditionally, we budget, when it comes to the fairgrounds, the allocations that are provided on an annual basis. So this was above and beyond that particular allocation.
And that money has been spent.
Correct.
Yeah. And it went towards consultants and people who are assisting the task force in bringing forth recommendations to the
Throughout
commission.
that process, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Any other public comment on this item? All right. Seeing no further public comment, I turn it over to the commission for discussion or a motion.
Commissioner Bender, this is Gerald Benning. I just have one question for Susan. When I look through these, are any of these been possibly addressed with ARPA funding? I think I already know the answer to that, but since you're the expert on ARPA funding, I'd like just to make sure that we understand that none of the itemized expenditures can be paid for by ARPA support.
You are correct. None of these are related to ARPA funding. We'll actually be getting to the ARPA supplement in the next agenda item. So this is all non-grant related funding.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Karski,
Aye.
Kipley,
Aye.
Bleinberg,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, that takes us to item 11, which is to consider a motion to authorize the 2023 budget supplement requests using grants, donations, and reimbursements. Susan.
Yes. So Susan Beeman from the Auditor's Office. Lee, if you could scroll down about 4 pages, I think.
Did I go too far?
No, please
Is that
go on
good?
maybe one more.
Okay.
So our next 4 agenda items are all related to grant supplements that are coming from different offices. The first one that we will cover is related to the Auditor's Office. So Lee, if you could scroll down 1 more page. So the ones coming from our office is related to 3 different funds. The first one is the general fund. That has a total for the general fund of just over $224,000. The items identified on that list are majority is related to the MacArthur SJC grant, as well as some insurance reimbursement and donations. Second item on the list is the pass-through grant funds that we receive to help fund the Indian Child Welfare Grant to help with that funding of $126,563. And then additionally, the third item is the supplement related to the American Rescue Plan Act. Per statute, grant and donation items do not require a public hearing, but we still have to come forward to you to ask for permission to supplement the budget to add those budget authority in there. Due to the volume of items on the American Rescue Plan grant, those are identified on the next 2.5 pages. So I won't go into details on all of those. You have the extensive list there. I would ask for your review and just pause for any consideration and for your approval.
All right, thank you. Just going through that list helps you to understand the incredible amount of work you've done to just track the ARPA funds and the other grants that we receive. Are there any commission questions for Susan before I turn it over for public comment? See a lot of people scrolling through a lot of ARPA fund reimbursements. Public comment, is there anyone for public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, I turn it over for commission discussion or a motion.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Second, Bleinberg.
Thank you. So you have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Kipley,
Aye.
Bleinberg,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Karski.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to item 12, which is to consider a motion to authorize 2023 budget supplement requests using grant donations and reimbursements for emergency management. Susan.
Yes, for your consideration today, we are asking for a budget supplement related to grant reimbursement and donations for the Emergency Management Fund of $195,850.23. On the memo that you are viewing on the screen, that's the list of the itemized reimbursements and grants that are for your consideration. This is something that we come forward every year to request. The one unique item this year is we did receive some straight grant funds of just over $14,000 for help with the court security project that you'll see on the list.
All right. Any questions for Susan on this item? Anyone for public comment on this item? All right. I turn it over to the commission.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Kipley.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Bleinberg.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. So that takes us to item 13, which is to consider a motion to authorize 2023 budget supplement requests using grants, donations, and reimbursements for the sheriff's office and jail. Susan.
Yes, so before you, we have a request from the sheriff's office for 3 of their different areas, the jail, the sheriff's office, as well as the JAG program. The total of these requests are $403,485.53. Again, they're a combination of grants, reimbursement, donations, and insurance funds for vehicle damage. So I believe Joe Bossman's in the room. If you have any questions on any of these items, between him and myself, we should be able to answer them.
All right. Any questions for Susan or for Captain Bosworth? Seeing none. Anybody here for public comment on this item? All right, I'll turn it over to the commission for discussion or a motion.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I would
Commissioner
make a
Benega.
motion to approve Benega.
Thank you.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Benega.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Bleinberg.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye, motion passes unanimously. All right, that takes us to item 14, which is consider motion to authorize the 2023 budget supplement request using grants, donations, and reimbursements, South Dakota Cares.
Yeah, so this is our final grant supplement request. The Human Services Department is requesting a grant supplement for the South Dakota Cares program of $1,439,799.75. This is for a combination of rent, utilities, and salary reimbursements for us processing those applications. I will pause there for any questions that you may have on that item.
All right, any questions on this item? Any public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, turn it over to the commission for discussion.
Move approval.
Second.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a whole flock of seconds. So roll call vote, please.
Karski.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Bleinberg.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. That takes us to item 15, which is consider a motion to authorize interfund transfer from the general fund to the 24/7 sobriety fund. Susan.
As part of the 2023 budget that was approved in late 2022, Leah, if you could scroll up just one page. Thank you. The 24/7 sobriety fund, the revenue coming into the fund in 2023 was not adequate to cover the expenses of that due to a number of changes to that program, primarily due as a result of the pandemic. And those changes have continued past that time. And so related to that, there was a budgeted interfund transfer of transferring cash from the general fund to this fund of $122,290. After assessing where that fund is at as of today, We are recommending only a transfer of $80,000 to cover the needed cash in that fund, as there were the full 122,000 was not needed. So we'd ask your consideration of an interfund transfer of $80,000.
Thank you. Any questions by the commission? I would just note that this change that we made in our budgeting process is just to be more transparent about how the 24/7 fund is funded and the costs that the county incurs for that. It's a program that's benefited a lot of people, but it used to be harder to see how much the county was actually paying for it. So that's why we have done this. Is there anybody for public comment on this item? All right, I'll turn it over to the commission for discussion. Commissioner
Motion
Karski.
to approve, Blyenberg.
I'll second with comments.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and comments by Commissioner Karski.
Yeah, it's just another one of those, the state says you must, but without any regard to the cost. So it's just one of those things that gets me. You know, we're told we have to, and I think this is a great program, but we can't increase the cost. We have to go with the cost or the reimbursement as we're told we're gonna get it. So it wears on me, and I hope that maybe somewhere, some legislator is listening.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Blyenberg.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye, motion passes unanimously. All right, so that takes us to item 16, which is to consider a motion to authorize interfund transfer from general fund to emergency management fund. Susan.
Yes, so before you is a motion for you to approve the interfund transfer of $347,816 from the general fund to the emergency management fund. This is the budgeted number that was included in the 2023 budget to help fund the emergency management fund. As you may recall, the emergency management fund is only partially funded with grant dollars, and the remainder has to come from the general fund to help fund that program. So this is the amount of the budgeted amount for that fund that was needed.
All right.
I'll pause there for any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Susan? All right, I'll turn it over to the commission for discussion or a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Karski.
Aye.
Blyenberg.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye, motion passes unanimously. That takes us to item 17, which is to consider a motion to authorize interfund transfer from ARPA funds to general fund, highway fund, and 24/7 sobriety fund. Susan.
Yes, so this is a request for authorization to transfer $2,276,891 from the American Rescue Plan Fund back to the general fund of about 2.1 million, highway fund of 132,000, and 24/7 sobriety fund of just over 4,700. So you may recall back in 2022, the commission authorized a matrix adjustment for as of April 2nd, 2022. As this is an enumerated use of ARPA funding, we are requesting the use of ARPA funding to transfer that money back to those funds that paid the salary increase that happened in 2022. This is the 2023 impact of that salary increase.
Thank
So
you.
I'll just pause there for any questions that you may have.
Any questions by the commission? Any questions for Susan? I would just note, just as a philosophical matter, that the commission made the decision to use the ARPA money to for any authorized expenditures that would actually replace things that otherwise taxpayers would have had to use. So we strategically tried to use the ARPA funds to keep our tax burden as low as possible. But we will be seeing the end of that coming here soon, and so that will have a big impact on the overall budget for the commission once we're done with the ARPA funds. Is there anyone for public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, I'll turn it over to the commission for discussion or a motion.
I'll move approval.
Second, Benninga.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Kipley,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Karski,
Aye.
Blindberg,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye, motion passes unanimously. All right, that takes us to item 18, 2023 budget supplements, use of personnel savings. Susan Beeman.
Yes, per policy, departments are not allowed to use personnel savings to cover other expenditure budget shortfalls without commission approval. We have 3 departments that have submitted a request for use of salary savings to cover some projected shortfalls in their other expenditure sections. Those are the Public Defender's Office, who is requesting $75,000 to help cover cost of professional services, primarily related to expert witnesses and things like that for some of their serious felony cases. $25,000 for the Juvenile Detention Center related to professional services that mainly include medical, as well as $780 for the Sheriff's Office for the STI Security Department. Just to note that total budget authority for those departments are adequate. We're just essentially moving, this request is essentially moving budget authority from salaries down to other expenses. There are memos from each of these departments in your packet, but I believe Tracy Smith and Joe Bossman are in the room and can answer any additional questions you might have, or have more to add.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Susan or for any of the department heads requesting approval? All right, Susan, is it fair that most of this personnel savings comes from turnover in these departments?
Correct. There's a lot of it from turnover, yes.
Okay. And I think the point of having specific commission approval of this was just to make sure that that wasn't some sort of slush fund, that we had oversight as to how that money was being spent. All right, is anyone for public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, I turn it over to the commission for discussion or for a motion.
Move approval.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Blindberg,
Aye.
Karski,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Kipley,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. I think this is our auditor's last item. She'll get to sit down. Okay, item 19, consider a motion to approve a resolution to transfer unsold tax deed property parcel 83302 to the city of Sioux Falls.
Trying to get to that item, even though I don't need it. On November 7th, the board approved, Leah Anderson, Auditor's Office. On November 7th, the board approved Resolution 2339, which rejected the winning bid on parcel 83302, which we refer to as 2500 North Bentgrass Court. This parcel is was zoned for drainage and was labeled as a detention pond. Since this parcel was declared surplus by Minnehaha County and is not necessary, useful, or suitable for the purposes of Minnehaha County, I am asking you to approve a resolution to transfer this unsold tax deed property to the city of Sioux Falls. Upon approval of this resolution, the auditor's office would be authorized to abate all outstanding taxes, interest, and penalties levied against this parcel, and the treasurer's office would be authorized to issue a quitclaim deed to transfer the parcel to the city. The abatement of taxes are $14.99 and the additional fees and interest to write off would be $529.97 for a total of $2,029.32.
All right, thank you. Are there questions for the auditor, Commissioner Karski?
Thank you. Correct me if I'm wrong, Leah, but basically a developer submits to the city a development plan and they're required to have detention ponds, and so they build it and they build this nice development and then they have this detention pond, and they walk away from it. And the intent is the city to own it and maintain it, and the county to give up the taxes that were supposed to be collected on it. Did I miss something?
That's pretty correct, I would say.
Okay, yeah. So
So what happened is the taxes didn't get paid over those years.
yeah, by the rest of the taxpayers. It seems to me there should be a better way to deal with that. You know, the developer knows going into this project, they're gonna have this detention pond, but they get to walk away from the property and leave it on the backs of the rest of the taxpayers. And detention ponds over years need work, they need maintenance and labor, and there's costs associated with them, which the city typically bears, the county doesn't. So I'm glad we got it off of our records, but it does come back to all the other taxpayers to take care of this detention pond.
Correct. The other disappointment is we had to go through work to put it on the sale, and then unfortunately somebody bid on it and then realized that they couldn't build on it.
Yep. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, any other comments, questions? Anyone for public comment on this item? I've got a couple public comment people.
Gary Meyer, I agree with you, Dean. Is there no value to this? Can we not sell it to a developer and let them be responsible, or are all water holding places typically owned by the city?
Commissioners, Jeff Barth again. When I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission, I worked hard to make sure we didn't cut the lots so that there was an empty pit in the middle where water would go. You know, you can make pie-shaped lot lines and have somebody own it, but it is a worthless piece of ground. You could mow it, you could maybe plant tomatoes back there, grow some koi fish, but we shouldn't approve developments that leave that blank space in the middle of, I know of a couple of them. There's one on Bonson Avenue with a giant boulder that says, you know, Fox something or other, which is the development. But, you know, is that boulder free if I went and grabbed it? I don't think they'd like it. Don't allow those things to happen. Of course, we can't control the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? All right, turn it over to the commission for discussion or a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Kipley,
Aye.
Karski,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Bleinberg,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Takes us to item 20, which is to authorize the chairperson to sign an agreement for council to represent respondents on mental health holds. Tom Greco.
Good morning, Tom Greco, Commission Administrative Officer. So this is essentially a contract renewal with Cruz Law Office. Renee Cruz has provided counsel to respondents in mental health hold cases. What this particular contract does, it will cover the calendar year, fiscal year 2024. The amount for the contract does increase, essentially congruent with the increase in court-appointed attorney's fees. In this particular case, from $2,900 a month, which is what she received in 2023, to $3,118 per month for 2024. Again, she provides these services to respondents in these particular mental health board hearings. The contract itself, the contents of it essentially have been, I consulted with the Public Defender's Office, Public Advocate, Court Administrator, and the Mental Health Board co-chairs. And it's also been reviewed by the State's Attorney's Office. So subject to your questions, I would recommend approval.
Thank you. Questions for Tom? Any public comment on this item? All right, I'll turn it over to the commission for discussion or a motion.
Make a motion to approve. Benega.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Benega,
Aye.
Kipley,
Aye.
Bleinberg,
Commissioner Blyenberg?
Aye.
Thank you.
Karski,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right, that takes us to item 21, which is to authorize the chair to sign the 2024 Rural Ambulance Service Quality Assurance Director Agreement. Good morning.
Good morning, Tyler Clack, Commission Office. This item and the next three are all routine items that you consider every year. This one is to approve the contract with Dr. Jeff Luther, who currently serves as the Rural Ambulance Services Quality Assurance Director. Point out the contract amount is for $33,000. From about 2010 to last year, it was around $30,000, and it was increased for the 2023 agreement, and then it remains the same value for the 2024 term. So if there's any questions, I can try to answer those.
Any questions for Tyler? Any public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in vote, sorry.
Kipley.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right, that takes us to item 22, which is to authorize the chair to sign the 2024 Animal Control Services Agreement. Tyler.
Thank you. So the Sioux Falls Area Humane Society currently serves as the provider for animal control services in the county. Right now, the contract for 2024 is proposed to be $52,000, which is an increase of about $5,000 from last year. The Humane Society is on call 24/7 to assist in any way that our county needs. And just to point out that the contract does stipulate that if the fee for services looks like it's going to exceed 80% of the total budget, there will be a meeting between the Humane Society and the county to figure out if a supplement will be needed.
All right, thank you. So in other words, this is kind of our best guess as to what the services will cost, and then we will true it up if we have to.
Yep.
All right. Anyone for public comment on this item? All right, seeing none. Turn it over to the commissioners for discussion or a motion.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Karski.
This was pretty much discussed during our budget cycle, and as Tyler said, we agreed to increase the reimbursement. So I would make a motion to approve the contract.
Thank you. Motion
Second.
and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Karski.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, that takes us to item 23, which is to authorize the chair to sign the 2024 Mobile Crisis Team Agreement. Tyler.
Thank you. Southeastern Behavioral Healthcare currently serves as the provider for the Mobile Crisis Team, a service they've done for quite a number of years. The 2024 contract is the same as 2023. It's $5,000, which is an administrative program fee. And that's really all I have on that one. If there's any questions, I can try to answer them.
All right, any questions for Tyler? Anyone for public comment on this item? All right, I turn it over to the commission for discussion or a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
So motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call vote, sorry.
Aye.
Got us too.
My bad. Roll call vote, please.
Karski.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. I have to admit, I'm struggling to keep up and make sure I'm in the right place on the agenda. So we are at item 24.
And Madam Chair, I'm going to recuse on this one as well.
Absolutely. So item 24, authorize the chair to sign the 2024 coroner and medical examiner contract. Tyler.
Thank you. My fun here ends with this one. Dr. Snell has been the coroner for Minnehaha County for a number of years. This contract is between the county and Sanford to provide coroner and medical examiner services, which include normal expenses like lab fees, ambulance transport costs, and monthly expenses are not part of this dollar value. Much like the Humane Society, if it looks like this is going to exceed 80% of its budget, we'll meet with Dr. Snell and figure out if a supplement's required. The total salary for the coroner is $72,000, and the amount for medical examiner services is $280,000, $407.38.
All right. Any questions for Tyler? I would just say that this agenda today shows you the wide variety and breadth of services that the county provides and the things that we're responsible for. All right, anybody for public comment on this item? Not seeing anyone. I'd turn it over to the commission for discussion or a motion. Commissioner Karski.
Just a comment. Dr. Snell's been our coroner and medical examiner for a good number of years, and while he's no Quincy M.E., he is a delightful individual. So, yeah, some of you have to be old enough to understand that little joke there. So I appreciate his work and him being with the county and doing the work that he does. So I will make a motion to approve.
Motion, is there a second?
Bleinberg.
Oh, thank you. Second, Commissioner Bleinberg. Roll call vote, please.
Karski.
Aye.
Bleinberg.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Kipley recusing himself. All right, so that takes us to the end of our regular agenda. So this is our opportunity for public comment. If there's anyone here who would like to speak on a matter that wasn't on our regular agenda today, this is your opportunity to come forward and speak.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just for clarification, this was asked of me earlier, and I think public comment is 5 minutes and a total of 30. Is that by our?
According to our rules of procedure that we've adopted, that is correct. For public comment, at this point, we have 3 minutes during the regular
3
agenda items, and then at the end, for items that aren't on the agenda, it's 5 minutes.
5 with a total of 30.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. All right, go ahead. Good morning.
Madam Chair, County Commissioners, thank you so much. My name is Rick Weibel. I sent you an email last week, and because of the holidays, I'm assuming that you didn't have a chance to read it. I wanted to bring you up to speed, and it was titled Election Facts and Laws with 2022 Violations and Issues Discovered in Minnehaha County, a primer. So I'm glad to see that you're now concerned about the elections, but don't worry. Our team already acted when you ignored the issues. The corrective action already took place when we legally replaced Ben Kite through the elections with Leah Anderson, who is willing to learn and conduct the elections to the letter of the law. Whether it is by hand or by machine, both are allowed in Chapter 12 of the South Dakota Codified Law. Just want to bring you up to speed. And I'm guessing that you had no idea, but you were made aware in 2022 during the canvassing board that you were given every opportunity to learn more. You were made aware of the vote flips that were discovered on election night. I was part of the team that discovered that and saw it live on TV in the Keloland. We also had the data through volunteers here in Minnehaha County that recorded the events directly from the Secretary of State's website. It was indicated which races were impacted during your canvassing meeting. Leah's already taken corrective action for the equipment that was not properly stored during the 2022 election and in her assumption into the office. A complete race was missing in 2022. You took corrective action on that by having a special election. The previous auditor did not know about ballot images or cast vote records, but the previous auditor did. It is actually a statutory requirement in South Dakota since 2005, when South Dakota adopted it in its codified law in Chapter 12. In 2002, the Help America Vote Act passed federally. That gave an answer to the Gore v. Bush case of the hanging chads in Florida. We had those hanging chads here in South Dakota too. They're still approved equipment on the Secretary of State's website. We've never decertified equipment in South Dakota. That's funny. So then, the EAC is established in 2002, which then creates the Voluntary Voting System Guidelines of 2005. In 2005, South Dakota, like so many other states, adopts the Voluntary Voting System Guidelines to be required for use before a machine enters South Dakota or is used in South Dakota. That voluntary status is required by the Constitution of the United States because it is the legislature that sets the time, place, and manner. So the EAC couldn't make it a requirement, but our statute makes it a requirement and the voluntary goes away. It's now adopted in South Dakota law. So some of the things that is required is that and you can find that in 12-17B 6.2. It states it there directly, that it is required before it can be used here. So that is the DS200, the DS450, and the 850 that's used here in Minnehaha County. The cast vote records is a federal standard. That's why you don't see a definition in our state statutes, because just like in my professional career, my entire life is basically mitigated by the National Institute of Science and Technology. I'm a computer professional. That's where the cast vote records are defined, under the Department of Commerce, just like dollars, inches, all the weights and measures of the United States. That's why state's attorneys were so confused as to what is this? And what's disgusting is that in that now required standard, you'll have the links there in that email where I directly point to you that in Chapter 7, the security requirements under 7.8, the cast vote records are required as part of an independent verification system. What's disgusting is that even as a gold standard, as you claim to be, you're one of only 4 counties in the entire state that actually has the software to review and evaluate the cast vote records as required. The other 62 counties ignore it. They don't even have it. That's how bad our elections are. And what's really sad is that there's a group that has been asking for the cast vote records. You should have reviewed those. You didn't. You should have asked whether or not the cast vote records balanced. You didn't ask. You should have validated the ballot images. You didn't. During a recount that I was part of to help a candidate here in Minnehaha County, it was discovered that the test decks for the tabulators and the express vote.
Thank you. I'm sorry, your 5 minutes is up.
Okay.
We've got to leave time for other folks.
Please read the email.
Thank you. Good
Cindy
morning.
Meyer, I yield my time back to Rick.
But no, we don't allow yielding time. I'm sorry. Under our procedures, it's not allowed. So you're welcome to speak.
Well, then I would just like to request again a time on the agenda for us to discuss election integrity, and I would like to also ask that we can have a meeting about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning, Jessica Palama. So I'll just kind of jump off of what Rick said there about the cast vote records being a national standard since 2005. And our group received lots of denial letters from this county stating that these records don't exist. So this is the gold standard of elections that we have in Minnehaha County, a record that's been mandated by federal standards for nearly 20 years, yet our county still thinks they don't exist. That's almost comical. So, for transparency, Kipley addressing transparency, we have a lawsuit suing this county for public records that you have continued to deny us for 2 years, stating that they don't exist, when Rick just laid out clearly they do, and they're mandated by the federal government to be able to use these machines, that EAC requirement, which our state then requires for use of our tabulation machines. So, just so everybody understands that, this county is still denying the public records that obviously do exist. In May of 2023, Lincoln County postponed the signing of the agreement with ES&S to have a public meeting. That public meeting, they wanted this commission to join them. And this commission refused to join them for that public meeting. So this has been addressed 2 or 3 times, and now we're saying, why don't you come and have a public meeting, when clearly this is gaslighting, because we have asked for this for 2 years, and 3 times you have officially refused. The ES&S meeting that was super secret, you all were invited to attend and did not. And the 2020 and 2022 elections, the absentee records between the spreadsheet in the county office and the total vote system recorded at the Secretary of State's office do not reconcile. I've been an accountant of 30 years also. The numbers do not match. And Gerald Benninga was notified personally by us that there were vote drops in his race in 2022. And he said to our faces, "We don't even listen to you anymore."
Anyone else for public comment? Morning.
Mick Baruth, Sioux Falls. First of all, I want to start off and thank you guys for confirming my intuitions. You know, last year we were told by the powers that be that our inflation was only around 8 or 9% at best. And I learned today by being at the meeting that you guys gave 14% raises to county employees, elected officials, I'm not sure which or both. This year we're being told that it's only 3 or 4%, and now we're giving 7.5% raises. So thank you for confirming my intuitions that the powers that be aren't being honest with us. As for some of the comments made earlier by some people that, you know, supposedly the mob, what's really going on is we've got a vocal minority that's been speaking for years, and now the silent majority starts speaking, and we're called the mob. How ridiculous is that? We've got 60+% of Democrats who think there's problems with our elections, 70% of independents, and 80% of Republicans across the United States. But we're the mob. Excuse me, but amateurs built the Ark. Professionals built the Titanic. And we know what happened there. The problem with all of these so-called professionals is they get indoctrinated into falling in line with the establishment. And if you don't do it our way, you're the mob. I'm an investment advisor. I have all kinds of rules I have to follow all the time. As a matter of fact, I had a client in my office last week, one of my biggest clients, who I would also consider a friend, and his wife did not come with him. So we reviewed their accounts, and I did not have print-offs of her accounts. And he was not happy. Now, I'm running a chance that he's going to pull all of his accounts from me just for doing that. But you know what? I got to protect my business too. I don't know that he's in line for talking about a divorce with his wife when he comes into my office after I haven't seen him for months. Imagine a client calling me on the phone and asking me for the balance of their account. I give them verbally over the phone the balance, and they say, could you send that to me in writing via email or mail? And I say, nope, sorry, I can't do that. They would have an attorney hired in a heartbeat. That's exactly what these people are asking for with these class vote records. They're there, they exist. We've confirmed that with ES&S, and they are not proprietary. The people paid for those. But let's go one step further on that. I don't send my client a statement via email or via mail, so they hire an attorney to sue me. Tell me how ridiculous this sounds. I call them up and I say, since you decided to sue me, I'm going to request some money from you so that I can hire an attorney to defend myself. That's exactly what you guys are doing with our taxpayer money, keeping the cast vote records from us. You've hired attorneys to keep the facts from us. There's no way that flies in the private sector. And if the silent majority knew what was really going on, you think this mob? This is nothing. The vast majority of people are so busy with their day-to-day lives, they have no clue what's going on. And that's how this whole establishment has operated all over our country for decades. And now we have people who have been awakened, and they aren't standing for it anymore. They're asking questions. And as taxpayers and citizens,
Thank you. Your time is
we
up.
have that right.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you all for what you do. I know it can't be easy, but it's also not easy for us to stand up. I just want to make a comment that I am not.
I do need your name. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Rihanna Ullum.
Okay.
I am not an election denier. I know elections happen. My concern is, and I've stated it before, I don't trust these machines. If the machines are going to be used, why can we not have the proof? That's all I want, is proof. Nothing has been proven to me that my vote that I cast was counted the way that it should. That I feel needs to change. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else this morning for public comment?
Here I am again, Jeff Barth. I do agree that there should be ways to hand count and verify the machine count. The way it is set up right now, it's not really easy. Comment was made to me once that, we trust the bank when it counts our cash, but you can always count it yourself. And if it needs statewide law changes, we should look into that. And I do think that there are problems with elections. They're not perfect, but they're not fraudulent. There have been all kinds of allegations about our national elections being fraudulent, but over 60 judges could not find anything. The former Attorney General could not find anything. Occam's law, which was from a couple hundred years ago, was that the simplest explanation is the best. The simplest explanation is there was no fraud. And we'll certainly have people who vote under their deceased mother's absentee ballot. We'll certainly have people that are counted as being dead who actually had the same name as their father. But we don't have massive fraud. Where are the hundreds of thousands of people who fraudulently stole the last election? They're not there. And as far as the mob, if this is the Glee Club, if this is the pep band, they're not. The former president summoned a mob, attacked the Capitol, tried to overturn our whole government, and it's absurd. But let me also say that I've been watching you guys for the last year. It's about 2 weeks short of my last official meeting, and I watched you stumble along, but I think you're doing okay. And I would also say, driving to here today, I almost said to work, I noticed a person pushing a wheelchair on a crusty ice sidewalk. So let's get those sidewalks clear. Let's work together. And I think our auditor, working to clear up these issues, will eventually get back to where you want her and she wants her and we want her. But thank you. Oh, Happy New Year.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment this morning? Good morning.
Hi, Bridget Myers, Minnehaha County. I guess it was kind of brought up that the mob mentality. I'm an individual, been an individual for a long time, sir. And I think you need to get with the times on what's going on in our world. I've seen multiple elections that have been overturned in the last year with proven fraud, sir. And it's pretty concerning. It's on both sides of the aisle. It's not just Republicans that think there's election problems. It's not just Democrats. It's not just independents and all the other parties in between. People have concerns. I knocked on a lot of doors, sir, to win my seat. And I plan on keeping my seat because I'm sure the establishment's planning on coming for it. They're not going to get it. I will fight to the bitter end for it because this is wrong what is going on. Second thing I want to bring up is why are meetings at 9 o'clock in the morning on Tuesdays? I am a business owner. To be here at 9 o'clock in the morning, the only reason I'm here today is because my son's having surgery right now and my husband's with him. It's the only reason I could be here today. And I made the choice to come here because I love this country, I love this county, and I love this state. And in order to keep it that way, we knew it would allow people to not be voting in multiple elections. I know for a fact we have people voting in our elections because I've talked to them while I do the laundry for my business at the laundromat. You know what's real concerning to me is they are coming here out of states where they don't want to pay the high taxes in their later years. So they claim residency here in South Dakota to avoid those taxes. It's a great little thing that we've created here in South Dakota. It's called a tax haven, and I've watched it go on. These same individuals from New Jersey that come here and stay at the campground in T inform me that they are actually given a list of who to vote for in this state. Isn't that interesting? I wonder who's giving them that list, because I find this very interesting that I had people that I don't even know tell me that while I'm sitting at the laundromat, telling me that they're listed at a place in Box Elder, South Dakota. That's where they're listed. Here in Sioux Falls, doing their laundry and living in a campground here. Boy, that's really interesting, isn't it? And it's even more interesting that they've been given a list on who to vote for. And I'd like to know, I will get to the bottom of it because I'm going to see those people again because I'm at that laundromat 3 days a week. And I will see them. I'm going to find out where this list came from and who's providing this list to them because they do not live here. The second problem, the part of that is that they also live in New Jersey. So are they voting in New Jersey too? Guess what? We have no way of knowing that because there is no centralized voting system. Not that we would ever want that, but there is nobody tracking anything. And so for you to sit here and tell me that there isn't fraud going on, I've seen it with my own eyes because I have people telling me they're voting in 2 different places, and that's not okay. And I don't know what the solution is, but when people are here asking to have the conversation and to figure out how that can be stopped, I think we need to have the conversation. I think that's appropriate. And secondly, I want to know how we go about getting these meetings moved from 9 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday and making them so the working folk can actually attend them and be here. And maybe have you guys have to work after 5 o'clock, maybe beyond your little 8 to 5 job, because that's what it feels like when you guys have meetings at 9 o'clock in the morning. This is extremely difficult for anyone to be here at this time. I don't know what it's going to take. I had been told you guys weren't listening and would not bring anything on the agenda about the elections. I had to come and see it for myself, so I came to your meeting last week, and I watched how people were treated. I don't think it's okay. I know it's a hard job being on a board. I've been on multiple boards. I understand it's hard. But you also have to understand these people aren't government officials. They're not in your position. They haven't had the training. They haven't had all the expertise that you have been given. And been given a chance to get into the position you are. But I can guarantee you, people are waking up, and you're gonna start seeing more grassroots people in those seats because we are not going to be told what to do and be ignored and be left off agendas anymore. People are done. And I'm telling you, these last couple of years has been telltale for people and how they've been treated on this. I don't understand why we can't do a hand count. I don't understand why you can't have a hand count. Run your machines next door and let's see what matches. And let's see if your machines are as accurate as they say they are. I don't think there's any problem with that. I don't understand why you would think that would be a problem. I think we could probably find enough volunteers to do the hand count. At this point, people are pretty concerned about the elections. It was the #1 thing I heard when I knocked on doors. So I want you to take that into consideration and get us on the agenda. Let's talk about these items and let's get it fixed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else this morning for public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll move to Commissioner Liaison reports. Are there any Commissioner Liaison reports this morning?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Kipley, excuse me.
Just wanted to report based on the first snowfall of the year. Our highway department was out in force. Unfortunately, it landed on Christmas Day, but be thinking of our highway personnel and how they respond. And I think got the roads looking pretty good. Luckily, we didn't get hit as hard as it was west of us, but appreciate all that they do and keeping us safe out on the roads. And we had no planning and zoning meeting here for the month of December. I think that's the extent of my reports. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Just to piggyback on that, there are a lot of county employees that ended up working, just normally scheduled to work, sheriff's office, people at the jail, people on the highway, and we just really appreciate all the extra work and time that those folks put into their job and taking care of us. So, Commissioner Blyenberg or Benega, do either of you have any liaison reports this morning?
I do not. Blyenberg.
Okay. Since I'm not hearing from Commissioner Benega, I'll assume that is the same. Commissioner Karski, anything this morning? I would just say that last week when Commissioner Karski was out of town for a family event, I did attend a couple of link meetings for him. It's not an event. Yeah, I didn't want to, because I was trying to be careful with my words. It was a funeral, sadly. Anyway, went to a couple of meetings for the link. The leadership there is really working hard to come up now that the link has been established for a couple of years, knowing that there's always room for improvement, trying to find the right structure, the right funding so that that can be sustainable. A lot of good discussions that I attended, and I appreciate all the work that Commissioner Karski has done over the years serving on that board. All right, with that, I'd go to non-action commission discussion. Is there any non-action commission discussion this morning? I don't believe so. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Kipley.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye.
Blyenberg.
Aye.
Benega.
Commissioner Benega? You might have had to drop off.
Bender.
Aye. So motion passes 4 to 1 abstention. All right, I think that's it.